Hello everyone, this is Dalster and welcome to another episode review of Dark Side of the Ring, and in today's video we will be discussing the life of gorgeous Gino. I haven't seen this episode for many years for I forgot about everything. Gorgeous Gino, also known as Gino Hernandez, died so suddenly like many of the topics that are discussed here in Dark Side of the Ring. So I'll also learn some new things about Gino, or relearn since my memory is pretty bad. The introduction talks about how great of a heel Gino was in World Class Championship Wrestling, WCCW, and that he died at the age of 28. Gino's real name was Charles Eugene Wolfe Jr., and he was born on August 8, 1957 in Highland Park, Texas. His mom, Patrice, was a model for a while until she had to raise Gino and his sister since she was a single mom. Gino's father was Charles Eugene Wolfe Sr., but wrestling fans think it was Paul Bush because Gino had a close connection with Paul. Patrice married another man named Luis Hernandez, who was a wrestler too. Gino then became influenced by his stepdad. Patrice said that Gino and Luis would wrestle a lot in the house as Gino trained to be a wrestler. At the age of 12, Luis died and Gino adopted his stepdad's last name, Hernandez, in order to pursue a career in wrestling once he turned 17. Paul Bush guided Gino as Jose Lothario trained him. Once he started wrestling, Gino would put on his late dad's shoes because, from Patrice's words, Gino was able to wrestle well and jump really high. Patrice was surprised how well Gino was able to wrestle and cried when Gino told her that it was his stepdad who did all the wrestling for Gino. Gino's first wrestling promotion was Southwest Championship Wrestling, SCW. He teamed up with his trainer Jose Lothario, but turned on him and worked with heel manager Gary Hart. Gino got his head shaved for the first time in wrestling when he lost to Lothario and got into a tag team with Tully Blanchard. It was around this time that Gino started developing his big heel persona, who would be a self-centered, rich, cocky man with blonde hair. Once he went to WCCW, Gino was known as Gorgeous Gino and was a huge star in Texas with a conceited gimmick. Outside of wrestling, Gino was married at the age of 18 and had 2 daughters. His wife, Janice, would feel uncomfortable to be around him because he was such a big heel and also lived the persona in and out of the ring. People really hated Gino as they wanted to kill him. He resembled a lot like Ric Flair in my opinion. Jake the Snake Roberts said in this episode that Gino had a lot of charisma as he was an evil rich boy heel. The audience would throw pennies at Gino's kids as well. Eventually Gino got into a tag team duo with Chris Adams and they were known as the Dynamic Duo. However, Chris was a good guy. They were a good tag team even though they were completely opposite of each other. At the Cotton Bowl, the Dynamic Duo faced the Von Erich brothers in a hair versus hair match. The Dynamic Duo lost as they had their hair shaved off. Outside of the ring, Gino would go to a nightclub called Judges and partied all night long. Jeannie, who was the ex-girlfriend of Chris Adams at the time, was neighbors with Gino. She said that Gino did drugs such as cocaine. Drugs were a thing in the 70s and 80s as a lot of wrestlers got their hands on it. Gino developed a drug habit as he gave Janice acid and took her to the nightclub he would go to. Because he went to the club a lot, Gino got himself involved with a bad, dangerous crowd. Jake said that he heard Gino was in a crowd that had power in Houston and Dallas, Texas. After finding out that Gino was in this bad crowd, Janice divorced him. In 1986, Gino and Chris turned on each other and had a match, as this would be Gino's last match alive. Gino sprayed Nair on Chris, which caused Chris to wear a cloth in his eyes for a couple of days. After that, Gino disappeared on Super Bowl Sunday of 1986. As Patrice explains, the last time that she saw her son alive. Patrice described Gino as being nervous and seemed to be in a bit of a hurry that day. David said that the last time he saw Gino alive was when Gino came into the office nervous because he felt that someone was following him as he was driving. From there, Gino told David that he thought someone was going to kill him. Gino walked off and it was the last time that David saw Gino alive. David said that Gino missed a show in Oklahoma the next day and found it strange because Gino never missed a show. Jeannie said that the last time she saw Gino was when he had a peach pie in his hand. Gino's manager called Patrice on her birthday which was February 5, 1986, to say if she heard anything about Gino and where he was, but she said that she hadn't seen him that day. Jeannie said that the next day she saw Gino's car parked and that the wheels were out of place. After that day, she saw the car in the same position. She then looked into the car and saw the same peach pie Gino had when she last saw him alive. David said that Gino missed another show, but in Houston, Texas, so he called the referee named Rick Hazard and told him to go to Gino's apartment. Through the window, Rick saw half of Gino's body. He was told by the police that Gino's body had been dead for 4 to 5 days. At the crime scene, Gino had a gun on the floor. Walter, Gino's manager, called Patrice to tell her that Gino was dead and hung up. After the call, Patrice screamed and cried. Police said that Gino's body was decomposed, and it was difficult for them to identify what had happened to it, but there were no drugs at the crime scene. One of the guys that hung out with Gino at the nightclub came to Patrice's house to discuss the funeral. The mystery man told Patrice that Gino owed him a lot of money, but to not worry about it because he will pay for Gino's funeral. Patrice said that when she saw Gino's mysterious friend's face, she said that she was scared to death. She also mentions that Gino's friend sounded threatening and had no empathy or sympathy for Gino's death. Family and friends believe that Gino was murdered. The news thinks that Gino might have been murdered as well. Bruce said that Gino's casket was platinum and closed. It was an expensive funeral, and the group of guys who paid for it had glasses of champagne and said, "To you, Gino," and threw the glasses at the casket. One of those guys did a eulogy and talked about a memory he had of Gino doing a headlock to another guy in Las Vegas. Bruce said in this episode that he and the audience that attended Gino's funeral had no idea who this random guy was. Years later, that man turned out to be someone named John Royal, who was wanted by the authorities because he did drug dealing. Patrice said that as of today, John is currently in prison. Rumors and conspiracies started floating around after Gino died. Andre the Giant heard that Gino got shot in the head. Janice said that Gino would take plane trips in order to get away. Bruce said that Gino was involved with gambling, which could explain Gino's death. David said that he heard Chris Adams killed Gino. Janice said that the family was not able to see Gino's corpse as it was very decomposed. Patrice still has all the paperwork and records of Gino's death, so she does her own investigation. Supposedly, Gino had a deadbolt in his house, but the day of his death, it was probably turned off. The police reported that Gino died of a drug overdose, but they found no drugs at the crime scene, like I said a couple seconds ago. Autopsy reports also show that Gino was morbidly obese. Janice thinks that Gino either faked his death or had been killed, because there was a time when she and Gino were watching TV one day, and Gino said that he was going to fake his own death as he saw it on the TV. Jeannie said that when she went to Gino's house, she saw Gino's cereal bowl full of cocaine one day. As she was at the house, Jeannie saw Gino looking through the window many times as he was paranoid. Jeannie said that Gino also kept letting the sink run as the water was splashing on the floor while he was looking through the window with a gun in his hand. Jake said that he and Gino did drugs together, as Jake also had his own drug problems as well. Jeannie heard that there was no cocaine in Gino's house, as it looked like someone had cleaned it all up. Patrice said that she lived her whole life looking over her shoulder after Gino died. The vice producers contacted John Royal through voice call as he was serving a 30-year sentence. John said through the call that he does not remember Gino owing him money and that he was with Gino on the day that he died. He also said that Gino left the club with the stewardess and that it was the last time he saw Gino alive. Vice managed to also interview a former drug trafficker in this episode as they wanted to remain anonymous, but wanted to tell the truth of Gino's death. Patrice cried after she found out what this man said about what he knew of Gino's death after 32 years since this episode had aired. The mystery man said that he met Gino through a mystery group and was good friends with Gino. He also stated that Gino was involved with a cocaine deal and made a lot of money from it. John Royal said that there is no foul play with him on Gino's death and also stated that he was being fabricated, meaning that he was being accused. The anonymous guy said that Gino started using more drugs and that they got a hold of him. The anonymous guy also said that he felt that he and the group were being followed by the police as the police were hiding in the bushes, and that Gino got himself into that situation. Patrice said that she forgives John Royal. Lisha, the daughter of Gino, said that her grandmother Patrice had lived a sad long life. As of today, she has 5 children and was told by her mom that she looked like her dad Gino. In fact, when you look at Lisha's son at the end of this episode, he looks more like Gino. Interviewers for this episode are Jake the Snake Roberts, Bruce Pritchard, David Manning, WCCW referee and booker, Patrice Aguirre, Gino's mom, Janice Gillespie, ex-wife of Gino, Lisha Gillespie, Gino's daughter, Kevin Von Erich, only for a little bit, Jeannie Williams, former wrestling manager, a former drug trafficker, and a voice call from John Royal. I give this episode a 9 out of 10 as it was very informative and tragic that he had died too soon. To me, it sounds like Gino got himself in a dangerous crowd and sadly got killed for it. This episode is also a good reason to not get involved with drugs, as Gino's family and friends said that he got very paranoid when he took cocaine. I think that John Royal knows something or someone who killed Gino. I'm just surprised that this mystery group and John decided to insert themselves in the funeral, and to me it seemed like they ruined Gino's funeral and had no respect for him. Obviously, someone should have kicked them out or called the police on them. I think Gino was far too gone during his last days with the drugs, as it could have gotten him in trouble with someone, and they probably got mad at him and were involved with Gino's death. Lesson here is don't get involved with a mafia group or anyone who works with drugs. I was able to watch old clips of Gino's promos, and he definitely reminded me of Ric Flair, the spoiled rich boy persona. He definitely had the charisma that could have made him into a big star. Such a sad ending to a soon-to-be big star. As of today, Patrice has said that she had a secret marriage to Jimmy Snuka, who was accused of killing his girlfriend in the 80s. I didn't know of this secret marriage until I looked it up on Google this month, and that must have been really scary for her, considering Jimmy Snuka was a murderer. There were rumors that Gino might have been gay and lived a double life. This was something I came upon on wrestler Hannibal's YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the description box below. Gino was featured in the Iron Claw movie in 2023 as he was being portrayed by Ryan Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's brother. That's pretty much it for this episode. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself and everyone around you, and I'll do the same too. Bye guys.